The security footage didn't lie. At 9:47 p.m. on a cold November evening, outside Murphy's Corner Store in downtown Providence, Rhode Island, the camera captured everything. A silver BMW pulled into the handicapped spot. Out stepped Marcus Caprio, 23, designer jacket, expensive sneakers, phone in hand. He didn't even glance at the disabled parking sign. Inside the store, 76-year-old Vietnam veteran Harold Chen was buying milk and bread. Harold had owned Chen's Hardware on Main Street for 40 years. Everyone knew him. Everyone loved him. He walked with a cane after taking shrapnel in Da Nang in 1968. Harold came out slowly, one careful step at a time. He saw the BMW in his spot and politely knocked on the window. "Excuse me, son. That's a handicapped spot." Marcus rolled down the window halfway. "So, I need that spot. I have a permit." Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. "Old man, I'll be 2 minutes. Relax. Please, I can't walk far." "Then crawl." The words hung in the cold air like poison. Harold's face flushed. "Young man, show some respect." Marcus opened the door hard. It slammed into Harold's hip. The elderly veteran stumbled backward, cane flying, and hit the pavement. His head struck the curb with a sickening crack. Marcus got out, looked down at the bleeding man, and said 5 words that would seal his fate. "Shouldn't have touched my car." 3 witnesses rushed over. Someone called 911. Marcus drove away. Harold Chen suffered a concussion, fractured hip, and 6 stitches. At his age, the recovery would take months, if he fully recovered at all. The video went viral within hours. Local news picked it up. Then national news. The headline screamed, "War hero attacked by entitled youth over parking spot." Providence exploded with rage. Vigils were held for Harold. The BMW was traced to Marcus Caprio, son of Police Chief Anthony Caprio, one of the most respected law enforcement officers in the state. The irony was cruel. The shame was public. Marcus was arrested within 24 hours and charged with aggravated assault, reckless endangerment, and leaving the scene. Bail was set high. His father paid it without a word. The city demanded justice. Not just any justice, real justice. But a revelation unexpected was about to change everything in the courtroom. Providence County Superior Court, Courtroom 6. February 14th. The room was packed beyond capacity. Reporters lined the back wall. Harold Chen sat in the front row, cane resting against his knee, his daughter beside him. The gallery buzzed with tension. Judge Thomas Rivera took the bench at exactly 9 a.m. 62 years old, 30 years on the bench, he had seen everything. But even his weathered face showed the weight of this case. "All rise." Everyone stood. The room fell silent. "Be seated. We are here for the people versus Marcus Caprio. Counsels, state your appearances." The assistant district attorney stood. "Sarah Mendez for the people, Your Honor." Then the defense attorney. "Michael Brennan for the defendant, Your Honor." Judge Rivera nodded. "Bring in the defendant." The side door opened. Marcus Caprio walked in wearing a tailored navy suit that probably cost more than Harold's monthly pension. His hair was perfectly styled. His expression? Bored annoyance. He didn't look at Harold Chen. Not once. Marcus sat down, leaned back in his chair, and checked his watch. The gallery erupted in angry murmurs. "Order," Judge Rivera said quietly. But his eyes had darkened. The prosecution began with the video. On the screen, everyone watched Marcus slam the car door into Harold, watched the veteran fall, watched Marcus drive away. Several people in the gallery gasped. One woman covered her mouth. Harold's daughter began to cry softly. Marcus yawned. Judge Rivera's jaw tightened. "Mr. Caprio, the judge said, his voice like steel wrapped in silk. "This is a court of law. You will sit up straight and show appropriate respect." Marcus straightened slightly, but the smirk never left his face. The ADA called Harold Chen to the stand. The elderly veteran stood slowly, painfully, and made his way to the witness box. Every step hurt. Everyone could see it. "Mr. Chen," Sarah Mendez began gently, "can you tell the court what happened that night?" Harold spoke clearly, with dignity. "I asked the young man to move his car. I was polite. I showed him my permit. He was rude, but I tried to keep calm." His voice cracked slightly. "Then he opened his door. It hit me. I fell. I heard my hip crack before I felt the pain." "What did the defendant say after you fell?" Harold looked down. "He said I shouldn't have touched his car." A tear rolled down Harold's weathered cheek. He wiped it quickly, embarrassed. Marcus Caprio, at the defense table, remained stone cold. No emotion. No remorse. Nothing. The gallery erupted. "Shame!" someone shouted. "Look at him!" another voice cried. Judge Rivera's gavel came down hard. "Order! I will clear this courtroom if necessary." But even the judge looked at Marcus with something close to disgust. When it was the defense's turn, Marcus took the stand. His attorney advised caution, but Marcus ignored it. "Mr. Caprio," his lawyer said carefully, "do you regret what happened?" Marcus shrugged. "It was an accident. He was in my way. I had somewhere to be." The room went cold. "An accident?" The ADA shot back on cross-examination. "You told him to crawl. You left him bleeding on the ground." "I panicked." "You panicked, or you didn't care?" "Objection." The defense attorney stood. "Overruled. Answer the question, Mr. Caprio." Marcus met her eyes. "He should have just waited. None of this would have happened." Judge Rivera stood. The entire courtroom held its breath. "Mr. Caprio, do you understand the severity of what you've done? This man is a war veteran, a pillar of this community, and you assaulted him over a parking spot." Marcus met the judge's eyes with that same cold arrogance. "I understand I'm here because everyone's making a big deal out of nothing." The judge's face went red. "Nothing? Nothing." The courtroom exploded. And then someone stood up in the back of the courtroom. A tall man in a police uniform, shoulders heavy, face drawn with grief. Police Chief Anthony Caprio. "Your Honor," his voice cut through the chaos. "May I speak?" The courtroom went dead silent. Judge Rivera looked at the man in the back. Recognition flickered across his face. "Chief Caprio?" "Yes, Your Honor." Everyone turned. Marcus froze. The color drained from his face. "Dad." His voice was small suddenly. Childlike. Chief Anthony Caprio walked down the center aisle. Every eye was on him. His uniform was crisp, his posture military straight, but his eyes were full of pain. "Your Honor, I've been sitting in the back since this trial began. My son doesn't know I've been here." Judge Rivera nodded slowly. "Please approach the bench." Anthony Caprio stood before the judge, then turned to face his son. Marcus looked like he might be sick. "Your Honor, permission to address the court?" "Granted." The chief took a deep breath. When he spoke, his voice shook, not with weakness, but with the weight of what he was about to do. "I am Police Chief Anthony Caprio. Marcus is my only son. I raised him after his mother died when he was 12. I gave him everything. Maybe I gave him too much." His voice cracked. "I worked long hours protecting this city. I taught him about law and order, about justice, about honor." He turned to Marcus, who couldn't meet his eyes. But somewhere along the way, I failed him. I failed to teach him the most important lesson: that privilege is not a right. That respect is earned, not demanded. That no one, is above basic human decency. Tears streamed down Anthony's face now. The entire courtroom was silent. Even the reporters had stopped writing. "Your Honor, I came here today because I needed to see my son face the consequences of his actions. I needed to see if there was any remorse, any humanity left." He looked at Marcus, who was now trembling. "And what I saw broke my heart. I saw arrogance. I saw cruelty. I saw a stranger wearing my son's face." "Dad, please," Marcus whispered. "Mr. Chen," Anthony turned to Harold, "I cannot apologize enough for what my son did to you. You served this country. You gave your body in Vietnam. You've been a model citizen your entire life. And my son treated you like garbage." Harold Chen nodded, his own eyes wet. Anthony turned back to Judge Rivera. "Your Honor, I know my position in this community. I know people expect me to ask for leniency, to use my influence." He stood taller. "But I'm here to ask the opposite." The courtroom gasped. "I'm asking you to hold my son accountable to the fullest extent of the law. Show him no favoritism. Treat him like you would any other defendant who showed such callous disregard for human life." Marcus broke. "Dad, no. Please. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Anthony's voice rose. "You're sorry now? Now that you're facing real consequences? Where was that remorse when Mr. Chen was bleeding on the ground? Where was it when you called him names from the witness stand?" Marcus collapsed forward, sobbing. His lawyer put a hand on his shoulder, but even the attorney looked stunned. "If my son goes free without truly understanding what he's done," Anthony continued, "then I failed not just as a father, but as a man who swore to uphold justice. Your Honor, do what must be done. I will not interfere. I will not defend him. He must face this like every other citizen." Judge Rivera wiped his own eyes. "Chief Caprio, that took tremendous courage." "No, Your Honor. Courage is what Mr. Chen showed in Vietnam. This is just a father finally doing his job, even if it's years too late." Anthony turned one last time to his son. "I love you, Marcus. But love without accountability isn't love. It's enabling. And I won't enable you any more." Then he walked back to his seat, leaving his son broken at the defense table. The courtroom remained in absolute silence after Chief Anthony Caprio returned to his seat. The weight of what had just transpired hung in the air like morning fog over Narragansett Bay, heavy, thick, and impossible to ignore. Judge Thomas Rivera removed his glasses and cleaned them slowly. It was a deliberate gesture, one he used when he needed a moment to compose himself. In 3 decades on the bench, he had witnessed countless dramas, but this was different. This wasn't just about law. It was about the soul of justice itself. He replaced his glasses and looked out at the sea of faces. Reporters with pens frozen mid-note. Community members leaning forward in their seats. Harold Chen, sitting with quiet dignity despite his pain. Chief Caprio, staring straight ahead with the bearing of a soldier facing his own execution. And Marcus Caprio, collapsed at the defense table, his expensive suit now wrinkled and soaked with tears, his carefully styled hair disheveled from running his hands through it repeatedly. The arrogant young man who had walked into this courtroom was gone. What remained was something raw and broken, but perhaps, finally, redeemable. "Mr. Caprio," Judge Rivera's voice cut through the silence like a blade. "Stand." Marcus struggled to his feet. His legs shook visibly. His attorney, Michael Brennan, rose beside him and whispered, "Deep breaths. Whatever comes, stand tall." But Marcus couldn't stand tall. Not anymore. The weight of what he'd done, of what he'd become, pressed down on him like a physical force. Judge Rivera leaned forward, his weathered hands folded on the bench. I have been a judge for 30 years. I have presided over murder trials where defendants showed more remorse than you initially displayed. I have sentenced drug dealers who cried for their victims. I have seen thieves apologize to those they robbed. He paused, letting the words sink in. But I have rarely, very rarely, seen the kind of casual cruelty you demonstrated. Not in the crime itself, though that was heinous enough, but in your attitude afterward. In this very courtroom. Marcus's shoulders shook with silent sobs. You assaulted a 76-year-old war veteran. A man who gave his youth, his health, and nearly his life for this country. A man who has been a pillar of this community for 40 years. And you did it over a parking spot. Judge Rivera's voice rose slightly. Not in a moment of passion. Not in self-defense. But because you were inconvenienced. Because someone dared to ask you, politely, to follow the law. The judge stood now, something he rarely did during sentencing. The gesture made everyone in the courtroom straighten. Mr. Chen showed you his disabled parking permit. He explained his situation. He appealed to your basic human decency. Rivera's voice dropped to barely above a whisper, forcing everyone to strain to hear. And you told him to crawl. Someone in the gallery gasped. Though everyone knew the story, hearing it repeated by the judge gave it fresh horror. Then you opened your car door, not accidentally, but deliberately, and struck him. You watched him fall. You watched him bleed. And your response? The judge's voice turned to steel. You blamed him. You drove away. And when you sat in this courtroom, you showed nothing but contempt for him, for this court, and for the very concept of justice. Marcus tried to speak, but only managed a choked sound. Your Honor, his attorney began. Mr. Brennan, your client will have a chance to speak. But right now, he will listen. Judge Rivera picked up a document from his desk. I have read the pre-sentencing report. I have reviewed your history. No prior criminal record. Educated. Privileged upbringing. Every advantage in life. He set the paper down hard. Which makes this worse. You had no excuse. No desperate circumstances. No poverty, no abuse, no trauma that explains, though it would never justify, what you did. You simply believed you were above the rules that apply to everyone else. The judge walked down from the bench, something unprecedented. Bailiffs tensed, but Rivera waved them off. He stood directly in front of Marcus. Look at me. Marcus slowly raised his tear-stained face. Do you understand what you've done? Not just the assault. Not just the physical harm. But the message you sent? That wealth and privilege and connection mean you can treat people like obstacles to be removed. Yes, Marcus whispered. Yes, Your Honor. I understand now. I'm sorry. I'm so. Are you sorry because you're caught? Or because you've genuinely grasped the enormity of your actions? Marcus's face crumpled. Both. I'm sorry because I'm caught and that makes me a coward. But I'm also, his voice broke completely. I'm also sorry because I saw my father's face. I saw what I did to him. I saw Mr. Chen crying and I felt nothing, and that scares me. What kind of person feels nothing? The raw honesty silenced the courtroom. Judge Rivera studied him for a long moment. Then he returned to the bench. Marcus Caprio, please remain standing. I am ready to pronounce sentence. The courtroom collectively held its breath. For the charge of aggravated assault on Harold Chen, I sentence you to 3 years in the Rhode Island State Correctional Facility. This is not a suspended sentence. This is not probation. You will serve real time. Marcus swayed but remained upright. "For the charge of reckless endangerment, I sentence you to 1 year, to run concurrently with the assault sentence. For leaving the scene of an incident causing personal injury, I sentence you to 6 months, also concurrent." The gallery murmured. It was a harsh sentence for a first-time offender, but given the circumstances, few were surprised. "However," the judge continued, and everyone went quiet again, "the law allows me discretion not just in punishment, but in rehabilitation. Therefore, I am adding the following conditions." He looked directly at Marcus. "Upon your release from incarceration, you will serve 500 hours, not 50, not 100, but 500 hours, of community service specifically with veterans organizations. You will attend weekly counseling sessions to address the entitled mindset that led to this crime. You will write a monthly report to this court on what you are learning. And you will, every single month for 2 years after your release, visit Mr. Chen and ask him if there is anything you can do to help him. If he says no, you thank him and leave. If he says yes, you do it. No questions. No complaints." Marcus nodded vigorously. "Yes, Your Honor." "Yes." "Anything." "Furthermore," Judge Rivera wasn't finished, "you will complete your GED if you haven't already, and you will take courses in ethics, philosophy, and the history of civil rights. I want you to learn about people who fought for dignity and respect, the things you denied Mr. Chen." The judge leaned back. "Mr. Caprio, I am giving you a chance that many defendants never receive. A chance to truly change. But understand this, I will be watching. This court will be watching. Your probation officer will be watching. And if you violate any condition of this sentence, you will serve the maximum time allowed by law." "I understand, Your Honor." "Thank you. Thank you." "Don't thank me. Thank your father for caring enough to tell you the truth. Thank Mr. Chen for not demanding the maximum sentence. They are showing you more grace than you showed Mr. Chen that night." Judge Rivera looked to the back of the courtroom. "Chief Caprio, you indicated you wished to add something?" Anthony Caprio stood once more. His uniform was impeccable, but his face looked like it had aged 10 years in the past hour. "Yes, Your Honor. The court sentence is just and I support it fully. But I have my own consequences to add, as Marcus's father." He walked forward again, stopping beside his son. For a moment, they stood side by side, the decorated police chief and the convicted criminal who bore his name. "Marcus," Anthony's voice was steady but thick with emotion, "when you are released from prison, you will not return to my home." "Not immediately." Marcus's head snapped toward his father. "Dad, let me finish." Anthony's tone left no room for argument. "You will find your own apartment. You will get your own job. You will not use my name for any advantage whatsoever. In fact, I will be informing my colleagues in law enforcement that you are to receive no preferential treatment of any kind." He paused, his jaw working. "I have already sold your BMW. The money is going into Mr. Chen's medical fund. Your trust fund, the one your mother left you, is frozen until you complete your sentence and your probation officer deems you rehabilitated." "But how will I? How will you survive? The same way millions of Americans survive. You'll work. You'll budget. You'll learn that money doesn't make you better than anyone else." Anthony's voice softened slightly. "Son, I love you. I will always love you. But love without accountability isn't love, it's enabling. And I've enabled you for too long. I gave you things instead of teaching you values. I was too busy protecting the city to protect you from becoming this." Tears streamed down both men's faces now. "So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to love you by letting you fall, by letting you struggle, by letting you discover who you really are when everything is stripped away." Anthony placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. And when you've done the work, real work, not just serving time, when you've proven through actions, not words, that you've changed, my door will be open. But not before. He looked at the judge. Your Honor, I'm also establishing a fund in Harold Chen's name. $50,000 for his medical expenses and ongoing care. It's not enough, nothing could be enough, but it's a start. Harold Chen rose slowly from his seat, using his cane for support. The entire courtroom turned to watch him. Your Honor, Harold's voice was clear and strong despite his 76 years. May I address the court? Of course, Mr. Chen. Please, come forward. Harold made his way slowly to the front. Each step was visible effort, a reminder of what Marcus had stolen from him. When he reached the witness stand area, he turned to face the courtroom. I want to say something to everyone here. To the reporters, to the community members, to my friends and family. He looked directly at Marcus. I'm angry. I won't pretend otherwise. What this young man did to me was wrong. It was cruel. It was senseless. His voice grew stronger. I lie awake some nights, and the anger is like fire in my chest. I think about how I served my country, how I survived Vietnam, how I built a business with my bare hands, how I raised children and grandchildren and tried to be a good man. His eyes glistened. And then I think about how I was treated like trash over a parking spot, how I was told to crawl, how I lay on that cold pavement, bleeding and scared, wondering if I would ever walk again. The courtroom was absolutely silent. But I also think about something else. Harold turned to Chief Caprio. I think about this man, this father, who had the courage to stand up in front of the whole world and demand justice for his son's victim, even though that victim was wronged by his own flesh and blood. He looked back at Marcus. Young man, you hurt me. You disrespected everything I stand for. But your father just showed me something I haven't seen in a long time. Real integrity. Real courage. Real love. Harold's voice broke. Do you understand what he just did? He sacrificed his relationship with you, maybe permanently, to teach you a lesson that might save your soul. That's not weakness. That's strength. He stepped closer to Marcus. I fought in Vietnam. I saw young men die. I saw boys your age learn hard lessons in the worst ways possible. Some of them changed. Some of them became better men because of what they endured. Some didn't make it home at all. Harold's voice dropped to almost a whisper. You're getting a chance they never got. A chance to come home. A chance to change. A chance to become the man your father hoped you'd be. He straightened as much as his injured body would allow. So I want you to know something. I don't forgive you. Not yet. Forgiveness isn't something you give because someone cries and says sorry. Forgiveness is earned through time and changed behavior. But, Harold's voice strengthened again, I am willing to wait and see if you can earn it. I am willing to believe that there is something worth saving in you, because your father believes it, and because I remember being young and stupid, though I never sunk to your level. He turned to the judge. Your Honor, I support your sentence. I think it's fair. I think it gives this young man exactly what he needs, consequences and a chance. Harold looked one more time at Marcus. Don't waste it. Don't you dare waste it. Your father just paid a price no parent should have to pay. Honor that. Become who he hoped you would be. Then Harold Chen, war hero, assault victim, and embodiment of dignity, turned and slowly walked back to his seat. The only sound in the courtroom was his cane tapping against the floor. Judge Rivera wiped his eyes openly now. Mr. Chen, this court, this community, is honored by your presence and your words. He turned back to Marcus. Mr. Caprio, you have heard the sentence of this court. You have heard your father's consequences. You have heard Mr. Chen's challenge to you. Do you have anything to say before the bailiffs take you into custody?" Marcus stood trembling. He looked at his father, at Harold Chen, at the judge, and finally at the packed courtroom. I don't have the words to express how sorry I am. And I know sorry isn't enough. I know it doesn't fix anything. I know it doesn't take away Mr. Chen's pain or my father's shame or the community's anger. His voice steadied slightly. But I want everyone to know, I accept this sentence. I accept all of it. I deserve it. I deserve worse. He turned to his father. Dad, I understand why you're doing this. I hate it, but I understand it. And I promise you, I swear on Mom's memory, that I will do the work. I will change. I will become someone you can be proud of. Then he faced Harold. Mr. Chen, I will spend the rest of my life trying to earn your forgiveness. I know I might never get it. But I'll try anyway. Because you deserve that. Because you deserve so much more than I can ever give you. His voice broke completely. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Judge Rivera stood. Marcus Caprio, it is the order of this court that you be remanded into custody immediately to begin serving your sentence. May you find in your time of incarceration the wisdom, humility, and compassion you so clearly lacked on the night of November 18th. He brought his gavel down. This court is adjourned. The bailiffs moved forward. Marcus held out his hands for the handcuffs. As they clicked shut, he looked at his father one last time. Anthony Caprio raised his hand. Not a wave, but a salute. The kind of salute one soldier gives another before a difficult mission. Marcus nodded and was led away. Epilogue. 8 months later. June 15th, Providence Community Veterans Center. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows of the community center, casting golden light across the tables where veterans gathered for their monthly lunch. The smell of roast beef and mashed potatoes filled the air. Laughter and old war stories created a comfortable soundtrack. Harold Chen sat at his usual table with 3 other Vietnam veterans, Tommy Rodriguez, James "Doc" Washington, and Peter Kowalski. They were in the middle of an animated debate about whether the 1967 Red Sox were better than the current team. "You're all crazy," Harold laughed, cutting his roast beef carefully. "Ted Williams could out-hit anyone today." "That's because pitchers back then threw like my grandmother," Doc shot back with a grin. The front door opened. Conversations continued, barely anyone noticing except Harold, whose eyes moved automatically to track newcomers, an old habit from his military days. A young man walked in. Jeans, plain white t-shirt, work boots. His hair was cut short and simple. His face was clean-shaven. He carried a backpack over one shoulder and looked different, humbler, quieter, worn in a way that came from the inside, not the outside. Marcus Caprio. He'd been released 3 weeks ago after serving 8 months of his sentence. Good behavior and the overcrowding in the state prison system had shortened his stay, but Judge Rivera's other conditions remained in full force. Harold watched as Marcus signed in at the front desk. The young woman there, Sarah, a volunteer coordinator, smiled at him. "Marcus, good to see you. We're serving lunch now. Kitchen needs help with cleanup after." "Yes, ma'am." "Happy to help, ma'am." Harold noted the word. The old Marcus would never have used it. Marcus turned and scanned the room. His eyes found Harold. For a moment, both men just looked at each other across the crowded space. Then Harold did something that surprised even himself. He nodded. Just a small, almost imperceptible nod. Marcus's face showed relief, then something like gratitude. He nodded back and walked slowly toward Harold's table. "Mr. Chen," he said quietly when he reached them. "Marcus." The other veterans at the table went silent, recognizing the young man from the news coverage. Tommy Rodriguez's hand moved instinctively toward his cane, as if ready to defend Harold. "I don't want to interrupt your lunch," Marcus said. "I just wanted to say hello. And to let you know I'm here. Serving my hours." "I can see that," Harold said neutrally. An awkward silence stretched out. Marcus shifted his weight. Okay. I'll just go help with." "Sit down," Harold said. Everyone at the table froze. "Sir." "I said sit down. We have an extra chair." Marcus hesitated, glancing at the other veterans, who were all staring at him with varying degrees of hostility and curiosity. "Harold, you sure about this?" Tommy asked quietly. "I'm sure." Marcus slowly pulled out the chair and sat, keeping his hands visible on the table, his posture respectful. "Gentlemen," Harold said to his friends, "this is Marcus Caprio. He's the young man who assaulted me 8 months ago. He's here serving court-ordered community service." The temperature at the table dropped about 20 degrees. "He's also," Harold continued calmly, "someone who might be trying to change. Time will tell." Doc Washington leaned forward. "Son, I'm going to be real with you. I don't know you. I only know what you did. And what you did was cowardly and cruel." "Yes, sir. It was." "So why should we give you the time of day?" Marcus met his eyes. "You shouldn't. You don't owe me anything. Mr. Chen doesn't owe me anything. I'm here because a judge ordered it and because I deserve to be uncomfortable. I deserve to face the people I hurt and the community I betrayed." Peter Kowalski, who'd been silent, spoke up. "Pretty words. We heard a lot of pretty words in our day. Promises from politicians and officers. Most of them were bullshit." "Yes, sir. I imagine they were. So how do we know you're not feeding us bullshit?" Marcus looked down at his hands. "You don't. You can't. Because I haven't earned your trust. I haven't proven anything yet." He looked up at Harold. "Mr. Chen, I know I'm supposed to visit you once a month and ask if there's anything I can do. But the truth is, I want to do more than that. I want to understand what I did. Not just the assault. I understand that was horrible, but what I did to your dignity, your sense of safety, your ability to trust people." Harold studied him quietly. "In prison," Marcus continued, his voice shaking slightly, "I met this old guy, ex-Marine named Curtis. Served in Desert Storm. He was in for some stuff he did when he came back messed up from the war. We ended up in the same education program." He swallowed hard. "Curtis told me about what it's like to serve. About brotherhood and sacrifice and honor. He told me about watching his best friend die in Iraq. About coming home and nobody understanding. About fighting for respect every single day." Marcus's eyes were wet now. "And then he asked me what I'd ever fought for. What I'd ever sacrificed. What I'd ever done for anyone but myself." Silence. I couldn't answer him. Because the truth is, I never did anything for anyone. I took. I demanded. I expected. And when someone like you, Mr. Chen, someone who actually served, who actually sacrificed, when you asked me for basic decency, I treated you like garbage." A tear rolled down Marcus's cheek. He didn't wipe it away. "Curtis told me something before I got released. He said, 'Marcus, you can't undo what you did. But you can decide who you're going to be from now on. Every single day is a choice.'" Harold leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. Tommy Rodriguez broke the silence. "What happened to Curtis?" "Still inside. He's got 2 more years. But we write to each other. He's helping me understand things." Marcus looked at the veterans around the table. Would any of you be willing to talk to me? Not today, not now, but sometime? About your service? About what respect means to you? Doc Washington and Peter exchanged glances. Tommy shook his head slightly, but not quite a refusal. Maybe, Doc said finally. But you got to prove yourself first. Words are easy. Work is hard. I understand. Thank you for even considering it. Harold spoke up. Marcus, the kitchen needs help with cleanup. Why don't you go help Sarah? We'll talk later. 6 months later, March, 1 year after the trial. Harold Chen stood in front of his bathroom mirror, adjusting his tie. His wife Amy came up behind him. You nervous? She asked. A little, he admitted. It's a good thing you're doing. I hope so. I hope I'm not wrong about him. Amy kissed his cheek. You're never wrong about people. It's your superpower. Harold smiled. At 80 years old, after everything life had thrown at him, war, racism, building a business from nothing, and yes, even being assaulted, he still believed in the possibility of redemption. Today would prove if that faith was justified. Providence Community Center was packed. Not for a trial this time, but for something entirely different. Marcus Caprio stood at the front of the room next to a podium. He wore simple business casual clothes, khakis and a button-down shirt. His hands shook slightly as he held his notes. The audience was filled with veterans, community members, local officials, and reporters. Judge Rivera was there. Chief Caprio sat in the third row, in civilian clothes for once. And in the front row, in the seat of honor, sat Harold Chen. Marcus stepped up to the microphone. He looked out at the sea of faces, some supportive, some skeptical, some openly hostile. Good morning. My name is Marcus Caprio. A year ago, most of you knew me as the privileged kid who assaulted Harold Chen over a parking spot. The room was silent. I could stand here and make excuses. I could tell you about my mother dying when I was 12, about feeling lost and angry, about my father working all the time and me trying to fill a void with material things and arrogance. He looked down at his notes, then pushed them aside. But those would be excuses. The truth is simpler and uglier. I was a selfish, entitled, cruel person. I believed I was better than other people. I believed rules didn't apply to me. And when a war hero asked me politely to move my car, I assaulted him. Someone in the audience made a disgusted sound. I deserve your disgust. I deserve your anger. What I did was indefensible. Marcus's voice strengthened. But I'm not here to defend myself. I'm here for 2 reasons. He gestured to the back of the room, where a large screen showed a PowerPoint presentation. First, to announce the creation of the Harold Chen Veterans Respect Fund. This fund, started with contributions from my father and me, will provide financial assistance to elderly veterans in our community for medical expenses, home modifications, and transportation needs. Applause broke out, though some remained silent. We've already raised $150,000. Our goal is $500,000 by the end of the year. Every cent goes directly to veterans. Not 1 penny goes to administrative costs. I'm handling that myself as part of my ongoing community service. He looked at Harold. Mr. Chen didn't ask for this. He didn't want his name on it. But I insisted. Because if my crime is going to be remembered, it should lead to something good. Harold nodded slightly, his eyes glistening. The second reason I'm here is more personal. Marcus took a deep breath. I want to talk about transformation, about whether people can really change. He stepped out from behind the podium. A year ago, Judge Rivera asked me if I understood what I'd done. I said I did. I was lying. I didn't understand. I couldn't understand because I'd never had to consider anyone but myself. Prison gave me time to think. Community service gave me perspective. But Mr. Chen gave me something else. He gave me a mirror. Marcus's voice broke. Every week for the past 6 months, Harold Chen has met with me. Sometimes we work together at the Veterans Center. Sometimes we just talk. He's told me about Vietnam, about building his business, about what respect really means. And every week I see what I took from him. Not just his physical health, though he still walks with pain. I see the caution in his eyes, the way he tenses when young men approach him too quickly, the trauma I caused. Tears streamed down Marcus's face now. I can never give back what I took. I can never undo that night. But I can dedicate my life to making sure it means something. He looked around the room. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking anyone to forget what I did. I'm asking for something harder. I'm asking you to hold me accountable. To watch me. To call me out if I slip back into old patterns. Because here's what I've learned. Transformation isn't a moment. It's not a speech or a ceremony. It's every single day, making better choices than I made yesterday. It's listening instead of demanding. It's serving instead of taking. It's recognizing that every person, every single person, has inherent dignity and value. Marcus turned directly to Harold. Mr. Chen, I know I've said this before, but I need to say it in front of everyone. I am profoundly, deeply, eternally sorry for what I did to you. You didn't deserve it. You deserved respect and courtesy and kindness. Instead, I gave you violence and contempt. Harold stood slowly, using his cane. The room held its breath. The elderly veteran walked to the front, each step deliberate. When he reached Marcus, he looked up at the young man who had once been his attacker. "Marcus," Harold said, his voice carrying throughout the silent room, "when Judge Rivera sentenced you, I said I didn't forgive you yet. That forgiveness had to be earned." Marcus nodded, not trusting himself to speak. "I've watched you this past year. I've seen you show up even when it was hard. I've heard you listen to stories that made you uncomfortable. I've seen you cry when veterans talked about their pain. I've seen you work without complaining. I've seen you change." Harold's voice grew stronger. "Is that change complete?" "No." "Will you still make mistakes?" "Probably." "Are we best friends?" "No." "But—" He held out his hand. "I forgive you, Marcus Caprio. Not because you've earned it fully, but because holding on to anger was hurting me more than it was hurting you. And because I choose to believe, that you're becoming a better man." Marcus stared at the offered hand, then at Harold's face. "Sir, I don't deserve. None of us deserve grace. That's why it's called grace. Now shake my hand before I change my mind." Marcus took Harold's hand. And then, to everyone's surprise, Harold pulled him into a brief hug. The room erupted in applause. Some people were crying. Judge Rivera was one of them. So was Chief Anthony Caprio. When they separated, Harold spoke quietly so only Marcus could hear. "Your father is very proud of you. He told me so last week. Maybe it's time you two had a real conversation." Marcus looked over at his father, who was standing now, clapping with tears running down his face. Harold patted Marcus's arm. "Go. I'll finish the presentation." Marcus walked toward his father. The crowd parted. When he reached Anthony, they stood face to face. "Dad,"